two objections that I often hear when presenting Peter Singer's argument to students in my other classes are the following. The first objection that I often hear is that Peter Singer is trying to guilt us into giving or into helping these people. The second objection is that Peter Singer is trying to force us to give or to give money to these other people to help them. So let's start with the first one, that Peter Singer is trying to guilt us. In defense of Peter Singer, if I'm going to respond for Peter Singer, this isn't my view per se, but this is what I think Peter Singer's view is. I think he would say that in a sense, he is trying to guilt you into recognizing your moral obligations, your duty to beneficence. That is to say that he's expressing his perspective, he's giving reasoning and an argument for his belief. And if in the course of doing this, you begin to feel guilty for the way you're spending your money, for instance, then he would say, great, you're feeling guilty because you have used your reason to recognize the truth of his argument, or at least to recognize some truth in what he's saying. So he's not making you feel guilty. You feel guilty because you're a rational person who can recognize that the interests and the suffering of these other people are equal to your own, and that your interests in leisure activities or a latte from Starbucks are not more important than these people's suffering. In regards to the second objection that Peter Singer is forcing us to give, I think Peter Singer would say that's clearly false. He's not forcing you to do anything. He's not taking your arm and putting it on the computer and asking you to type your credit card number, or making you type your credit card number into the boxes on the aid organization websites. He's not doing that at all. He's merely, again, expressing his ideas, expressing his beliefs and the reasoning behind them. And via this process, he thinks that he is showing that you ought to help, that you ought to donate some of your money to aid organizations. You're free not to do so, but he would argue that if you do not donate, then you're doing the wrong thing. That act of not donating, that inaction, is morally wrong. And again, you're free to disagree with him, but he's going to argue that you're wrong for doing so. You're wrong for disagreeing, and you're wrong for not helping. So those are two common objections that I often hear based on guilt and force or coercion. And those are what I think Peter Singer's responses would be.